Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble and sponsored by Chucky Stuggs. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
All right, Heidi, we're going to sit down and we're going to each eat a nice plate of crow pie. And we're going to celebrate Christmas with a much-needed win in Cleveland. So let's go.
Today on the show, as T3 just mentioned, we're going to talk about the big win in Cleveland, which still keeps the Raiders' slim playoff chances alive. Then we'll turn our attention to the Denver Broncos, who come into Allegiant Stadium this coming Sunday. Both teams are currently sitting at 7-7. And we also have a special guest visiting with us. We have a guest host today, and her name is Angria Trask. Welcome.
Hello, Raider Nation.
Angry, welcome in. We are so happy to have you in, and let's talk some football here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready.
All right, Raider Nation, we would love to hear from you, so here's how you can get in touch with us. Give us a call on the Only Nation podcast voicemail line at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. You can also check us out on the web at onlynationpod.com.
Here's the latest Raider news.
Daniel Carlson connected on a 48-yard field goal on the last play of the game as the Las Vegas Raiders came away with a 16-14 victory over the Cleveland Browns on a Monday evening game, which had been rescheduled from Saturday because of COVID-19 issues.
So Heidi and I revisited the game last night, and it was interesting to watch. I was really trying to avoid knowing if they won or lost because I wanted to go in fresh, but everybody texted me while I was napping and told me what happened. So that was shot. But watching the game, first of all, it's really sad to me that it was such a close game against the, half of their practice squad. But I think we did a really good job versus a couple of their really strong players. Myles Garrett was held really well not held officially, there are no flags, but Colton Miller did a really good job blocking him and keeping him away from the quarterback. Also, we did a pretty decent job holding Nick Chubb, who is a beast of a running back, and we held him to a decent amount of yards. I would have to look up the yardage on it, but I think it was 99 or something along those lines. And just the one touchdown, I believe. But given the fact that we were able to kind of mitigate two of their biggest threats, one on offense and one on defense, I think that bodes well for us, in part.
And there were a lot of people, not just on the team, but fans who were really upset about the fact that the game was moved. I know some people had said, now, if it had been any other team, they wouldn't have moved the game, and the Raiders would have had a lot more of a competitive advantage than they had. The competitive advantage did not really make that much difference. The Browns still had a lot of people out. Now, having said that, I fully expected that the Raiders would win a lot more handily than they did. But in the end analysis, they got a win, and they're 7-7, and I'm happy with that. So regardless of what the score was, the final score was a victory for the Raiders, which to me, this all really counts.
Absolutely.
The Browns had 18 players, including 8 starters, on the COVID-19 list that were unavailable for the game. They were down to third-string quarterback Nick Mullins, who was signed from the practice squad on Thursday and finally got to practice with the first-team offense on Saturday. Also, Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski had to miss the game as well.
And when Nick Mullins came in, the first thought I had was, oh my God, here we go. This is going to be Nick Mullins coming out all over again, just like in the San Francisco game.
San Francisco 2.0.
And the two games he would be known for in his career would have been both against the Raiders. And so when they got that last touchdown, I thought, here we go again. And Raider Nation is just going to totally melt down. Now, missing Waller and missing Perryman on defense were huge, as well as having Trayvon Mullen out again. But like you said, Angry, the defensive line, I think, did their job. I think they held their own, and the offensive line played much better. So I think along both lines they played well. It's that middle of the defense that concerned me because once Cleveland started to figure out that they could send the receivers into the middle, they started to eat up big chunks of yards, and that Raider defense started to get gashed, and then they started to get tired, and then that's where things really started to become worrisome. So I'm just happy that Nick Mullins didn't make a name for himself again in a good way for the Browns.
Yeah, that would have been ugly and embarrassing. But as for the Raider Nation melting down, that's kind of just what we do. So I expect it every week. There's going to be, regardless of win or loss, we're still going to go on Twitter and see people just complaining. And that's fine. It is what it is. But that's one thing to remember is we did have a lot of players out as well. So it's not exactly, it's not like it was just our first team, first string players on every single position that was playing their, half of their practice squad. It really was a much, I don't want to say much closer competition than it looked like on paper, but it was closer than people want to give it credit for.
Right. Totally agree with that.
Derek Carr was 25 of 38 for 236 yards passing, with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He also had a strip sack fumble, which resulted in a Cleveland touchdown drive. But he was able to lead the team down the field for one last drive and put Daniel Carlson in position for the game-winning field goal. It was the 23rd fourth-quarter comeback victory for Derek Carr in his career with the Raiders.
The one thing that I really noticed about Derek Carr last night was clock management. He did a much better job, I think, hanging onto that ball, and we come to expect that there's probably going to be a fumble at some point because Derek's not great at holding onto that ball when he gets hit or when he, decides to quarterback sneak and tries to get a first down, which happened last night as well. But he also did a lot more scrambling. I noticed and mentioned one time that his scrambling this year is much improved from what it has been since he broke his leg. And that was something that I was very impressed with. He was stopped on one of the last plays. I don't remember if it was the second to last drive, but he was stopped on that drive, but he gave it a shot. And that's something that we have come to really kind of not expect from Derek Carr. And he got our team all the way down to, like you said, within scoring range for Daniel Carlson. 3 seconds left. He put us in win position, and that's kind of what Derek Carr does, and we have to appreciate him for that.
And Derek was victimized during the course of the game by quite a few drops. But having said that, he took some shots he didn't need to. That the interception to Zay Jones, there's no way you should make that throw with a high safety playing over the top. He had Deshaun Jackson open, but as I was talking to Heidi earlier off air, they were moving the ball well. He didn't even need to make that deep throw. They could have made shorter throws down the field and continued to work it on down. I don't know what the play call was, whether he checked into that play or what he saw or didn't see. But as Heidi and I have been talking, when Derek Carr messes up, he seems to mess up pretty badly.
Yes.
And when he's steady, he seems to be steady. But it's hot and cold. There seems to be no in between.
That's exactly what Heidi and I discussed last night, too, is that when Derek's hot. He is elite, and he can put up the biggest numbers of any quarterback in the league. But when he is off, it is like Pee Wee League football out there. It's so bad that, we're embarrassed to have that as a quarterback. But luckily for Derek, he's usually on more than he's off. And that's a good thing for us. But if our defense doesn't pull through, which I have to really commend them. They held the Browns to 14 points, which is still, again, not characteristic of our defense, but that was really impressive that we held them to only 14 points. And that speaks a lot for the improvements that have been made.
The Raiders' defense played well and did limit the Browns to just 14 points, but the defensive front was not able to generate even one sack, and the defense was not able to get any turnovers against Cleveland, whereas the offense had 2 turnovers. In fact, the Raiders fumbled the ball 5 times and were lucky to only lose one of those. But kudos to the defense for doing its job, especially when it counted the most.
Yeah, as we mentioned, the 14 points, that's pretty impressive. But I saw at least 4 dropped interceptions that could have been made that could have given us a huge advantage in that game. We also saw something really uncharacteristic of Hunter Renfrow. He muffed, 3 punts? And that was really something I was shocked about that. Luckily, he recovered them, but I guess I would say it was really surprising to see him do that because his hands are usually just they're perfect. He has stellar hands when it comes to catching the ball. And I don't know what was off with him. One of the things that I was really disappointed about, I have to say, was Deshaun Jackson didn't get enough targets. He got 1. It was not a good throw, and I don't know why we're not using him as much as we should be. Also, I'm going to apply for the defensive job, by the way. Heidi's going to apply for offense, a coordinator. So we're just going to come in as a lady package. We're going to get Jenny to do special teams because if we put her on offense, then she's just going to drool over Derek Carr all day, and that's okay. But Peggy Holmes, she's going to be a head coach, and we're going to present ourselves as a package. This diversity, women in football, and trust me, I don't think we could do any worse. Because looking at the plays, why are we not running double and triple back sets? What is the problem with that? Where's the issue? I don't understand. We have 3 backs that are better than serviceable. Jalen Richard, even at his little tiny stature, is a great blocker. And since we do not have our fullback right now, there's no reason we can't put 2 or 3 backs in there. Barber and Jacobs playing off of each other would be a much more effective way to get that ball down the field.
Well, I will totally go with that ladies package as far as the organizational structure goes. If you all will just bring me in, make me the lead scout.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't have to be all women, but like 4 coaches going in, head coach and 3 coordinators. We got this.
I'll help scout the players. And Heidi can tell you, I've been tracking the last 3 drafts, and I think my draft selections have turned out to be pretty good in comparison with what the Raiders have had. Now, again, I'm not sure how we would map out with those year to year, but, I'd be willing to roll the dice on it anyway. Now, as far as what you were saying earlier, I almost get the impression now that Derek is only going to throw it to Deshaun if he feels like he's going to get a flag. Let's just air it out there and let's see if we can get a flag for pass interference. But I don't think he really trusts Deshaun enough to go with him. And I think he's proven enough over the course of the season since he's been with the team that he warrants that. But I was talking with 2 other friends last night during the game about Hunter. I think Hunter is just really pressing hard because he realized the team is relying on him so much to make big plays that he's pressing. And I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing some of those mistakes and errors now. I think he's just trying so hard to make a play that we're starting to see some of those uncharacteristic cracks in the armor. Now, I'm very much hoping that they either replace him right away as a punt returner or look at doing some type of replacement down the line next year. I think there's just too much being thrown on his plate right now. We're asking too much of him throughout the entire game.
I agree completely.
I think that both Hunter Renfrow and Foster Moreau are kind of feeling the pressure of their position because both of them have been a little unsteady with their hands the last couple of weeks. And it seems to be wearing on them. They're young players, so it's going to take a while for them to adjust. But I think the pressure is just getting to them just a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. I completely agree. And that makes complete sense given the fact that Hunter Renfrow is really our only very consistent receiver. I mentioned on the captain and his wenches the other day that I love Darren Waller, and Darren Waller, when he's in a battle for a ball, he can win that battle almost every time. But if we're being honest, there's stupid catches that he drops for no apparent reason, and that doesn't help us at all. So we have basically one guy who's catching every ball, and he's the only one you can count on. Well, eventually they're going to start saying, well, all we need to do is cover Hunter Renfrow. Deshaun Jackson's not getting any targets. Zay Jones is much better than people give him credit for. But if we go up against somebody with some burners at cornerback, and they were playing really well last night, you cover 2 people, and that kind of neutralizes our offense.
And then they'll tell the linebackers, okay, keep an eye on the backs coming out of the backfield. We can give up the short stuff, 2, 3, 4 yard gains, that's not going to hurt us. But if we can concentrate on that, we can let the other receivers go, knowing that Derek's not even going to target them.
And especially, I mean, like you said, there was one time where Jackson was completely open, and I think he tossed it to Zay Jones, who was double covered, I believe, and Zay didn't get the ball, of course. I mean, it was kind of a question. Like, I don't know why Derek either makes short little drop passes or big, huge bomb passes, and he doesn't go for the 10, 15 yarders. I understand where people say that, he's got short sight and his field vision isn't very good. But watching him last night, I was watching his eyes, and I watched him scan across the field a lot of times, and I don't know why he doesn't do that consistently.
But if that's the case, if he's got the short vision, as we mentioned, that one pass to Zay that was intercepted, the team was moving the ball effectively. They were using the receivers. They were starting to use the receivers and starting to use the middle zone of that field a lot more effectively. If they just kept with that, I think they could have continued to eat up clock and move the ball at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we get away from things that work for some reason. Another thing that I noticed last night was Peyton Barber is a really good receiver out of the backfield. Josh Jacobs was actually catching more balls last night than I have ever seen him catch. He's not a great backfield receiver, and his field vision isn't great either. He's a tough runner, and when he gets this opportunity for a downhill run, he can bowl through anybody with the best of them. But he's not a workhorse back, and we need to make that double back set a regular option, or we need to rotate him out more. We just get away from things that work, and it doesn't make sense to me. That's why I think we need, we're going to get new coaches, guaranteed, but I think we need new coaches that see this from a different perspective, like women.
Yeah, we get away from things that work, and then we keep trying to force, a square peg into a round hole when it's not going to work, and just keep doing it over and over and over.
I love Rod Marinelli to death, but I thought the dinosaurs were extinct centuries ago.
Nope, they're still hanging around.
They are in Las Vegas.
I was going to say, if there's any place they can go, it's the Raiders.
All right, let's break down the game as we finish off our slices of crow pie, because neither T3 or I saw the Raiders winning. It was indeed an ugly win, but let's talk it through. What happened on Monday night?
Now, I will take an ugly win any day of the week. There was no reason that the Raiders shouldn't have come in and gotten a big win of a very depleted Brown squad. It was encouraging to see the Raiders come down on their first possession and get the ball into the end zone. Only the fourth time that's happened all season. But very discouraging that they couldn't crack the end zone for the rest of the game. The key, I think, was the inability to get the ball in during the drive that resulted in the field goal that put them up 10-0. 14-0 at that point would have created the space the team needed to do great things down the stretch. Two things that concerned me were the lack of pressures on the opposing quarterback. That's you, Nick Mullins. I would have liked to have seen 3 to 4 sacks and ball security. The Raiders had 5 fumbles and were just fortunate to get all but one of them back. In order to win against Denver, we're going to have to bring the house, generate pressures and turnovers, and play from ahead, not from behind.
That's the key. We never play from ahead. We always play down to our opponents. And that's common throughout the league. There's a lot of teams that do it. The Steelers are one that come to me, right off the top of my head. But if we go in there and we have that really hot first drive, then there's no reason that we can't continue that. And that's just not something we see. It's kind of like they start experimenting after the first drive. Okay, this worked. Great. Let's see if the other things work. Well, no, I don't care if they expect us to run the ball in this position. I don't care if they expect that Marcus Mariota is going to come in and run the ball to the right and walk into the end zone. It works. And they haven't had an answer for it. Most teams have not had an answer for that at all. But instead, last night, he handed it off to Josh Jacobs, I believe it was, and he got nowhere. when I watched the field, he could have walked into that end zone. One thing I mentioned to Heidi, and this is kind of a secondary thing, was I watch quarterbacks hand the ball or do a fake handoff, and I think of Aaron Rodgers. I watched him the other night, and he did a fake handoff, and he ran the ball down the field. The way he does it is superior to anybody else's fakes, and I don't understand why that isn't covered. To me, you have to look at every single thing that works around the league, and I don't feel like the Raiders are doing that. The Broncos next week are going to give us hell. And if we're being honest, I don't know that we'll win that game because we do play from behind.
Yeah, that's one thing that the Raiders have seemed to do a lot, especially in the last 2 decades, is playing down to their opponent.
It's so sad that we have to say that. 2 decades.
But it's true. It's true.
It is. Oh my gosh. It's enough mediocrity.
Yeah, because there was just no reason why it had to be that close of a game when we're essentially playing the Browns practice squad. It was a really ugly win. Yeah, it's a win in the win column. That's the only thing that matters. But the way the Raiders did it was just plain ugly. The red zone efficiency was really poor again. They started off with the first drive as a touchdown, but then that was it for the rest of the game. They didn't see the end zone one more time. And the red zone efficiency, I believe, is now down to 31st in the league. It's pretty sad, and that's one of the things I've been harping on all year, is that needs to improve. The ball security issue was a big problem, and like Angria said, that we had the opportunity for turnovers. We just didn't capitalize on them. We missed the interceptions. There was plenty of opportunity. We just didn't follow through on it. It was good to see that the offensive line did a lot better than they had the week before. But the defensive line, you're right, Tom. They just didn't generate a lot of pressure. They didn't get sacks. They didn't chase the quarterback out of the pocket. It was sad to see that it took that much effort to beat basically the Browns practice squad.
And I will tell you one thing that the Raiders have been really consistent with, and I hate saying this, but here goes. They have been very consistent in getting a penalty once they get inside, not just the red zone, but inside the 10-yard line. You can almost count on it. Once they get inside the 10-yard line, there's going to be an offsides or a hold or a whole combination of things. And all of a sudden, we're not talking about a touchdown anymore. We're trotting Daniel Carlson out on the field. That happens all the time.
You can almost count on it. It's almost a guarantee. It's part, I think, of the inexperience of the offensive line, because most of the time that's what it is. It's a holding. It's a false start. It's something that's going to drop us 5 or 10 yards right out of that 10-yard range. But I don't know if any more experience or working together is going to help that. I guess we'll have to wait and see. However, we can't continue to do that. It's a nightmare. And the fact that Derek Carr can't feed a receiver in the red zone is also one of the more concerning things to me. It seems like people either aren't running their routes or he's not hitting them right. We had some really good plays that were set up with, Josh Jacobs in the end of the end zone in one of the corners, and, nobody's covering him because they don't think he's going to catch the ball. Foster Moreau, tight end, touchdown, back corner of the end zone. Those things should be happening, but I don't see that happening, and I don't see that it's because of coverage by the defense.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the routes, the receivers have to get separation from the line of scrimmage, and Hunter Renfrow does that. He's not the fastest receiver in the world, but that's one thing that we missed with Aguilar being gone. One thing Aguilar was able to do is he was able to get that separation from the line of scrimmage and get open early. And Derek saw that. I don't think we're seeing that as much from the receiving corps this year. And that's delaying Derek's ability to make that quick decision.
One thing we do have to give Hunter credit for, though, is he breaks ankles better than anybody in the league.
Yes,
That
he
man can
does.
run a route, switch, and go back 3-4 times during a route, and people can't keep up with that. So, no, he's not the fastest receiver, but he is crafty. And if we do take those additional punting responsibilities, punt returns off of him, I think that's going to make a bigger difference. Like Heidi said, it's going to give him a little bit more peace of mind to be able to settle down, make the catches that he needs to make, and not have to worry about those additional responsibilities that should reasonably be somebody else's.
Give him a chance to catch his breath, too.
Right. Exactly.
And plus, he's a little guy. I don't want to risk injury to him.
Uh-huh.
When I see him back there every single time, that's what I'm worried about. Worried about him getting hurt.
He broke a rib last year and punctured his lung and still played, but I don't want to have to force him to do that.
All right. So, predictions for the game against Denver. What is your prediction, T3?
All right. It would be easy for me to say that with Drew Lock playing, the Raiders will win this game. It would be easy for me to say that now that the Raiders have broken a 2-game losing streak, they're back on track for what could be a playoff run. But I don't see it. The Raiders are just too inconsistent right now, and they're going up against a team that's been playing a lot better and a lot more consistently of late in the Denver Broncos. Now, Drew Lock may not win this game for the Broncos, but I don't see the team letting the Raiders come away with a victory. I see a tough 21-17 defeat coming on, which would then drop the Raiders' record below 500 and even worse, put them at the bottom of the AFC West.
I hate to say it, but I hate to agree with you. I don't even, I think it is going to be a close game. I think we're pretty well matched with Denver right now, unfortunately, because I think we have the far superior quarterback. But unless we start playing aggressive and start playing things that work, we will not be able to take this game. There is no reason that even though predictable, we can't pass, run with double back sets, double wide receivers. If we had 3 tight ends, I think we officially do have 3 tight ends, don't we?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're all great tight ends, but even if we run a double tight set, double back set altogether, that gives us a much higher opportunity to be able to free up opportunities downfield. And Derek Carr needs to spread the ball around more. He cannot expect that. I mean, like you said, Tom, he can't just throw the ball to Jackson when he thinks he's going to get a penalty. That doesn't work. That's not why we brought him on. He has to give him the opportunity to play. He's a good receiver. He's still a good receiver. And there's a reason we signed him, and it's not to be eye candy. It's certainly not. If we don't open up the field, if we don't decide to actually run some plays that work, that have historically worked, then yeah, we're gonna see that ugly loss. And I think our defense probably gives up more than 20 points.
All right. And I'm going to be the lone wolf. I am going to say that the Raiders do pull out the victory.
Okay.
Go, Heidi.
I believe it will probably be an ugly game because both the Raiders and the Broncos are playing a little bit ugly right now. But I see the Raiders coming out on top 28-24. I think it is going to be a close game. I think the keys, again, are going to be red zone efficiency, continued good work from the offensive line, and the D line getting some pressure on the quarterback.
Heidi, if you're right, I'll tell you, not only do I disagree with you that it's an ugly win, I would say it would be the most beautiful win on the face of the planet. I will put lipstick on, kiss a piece of paper, and send it to you in the mail.
Oh my goodness. Well, I can't wait for this. Now I'm really hoping that we win. Not that I wasn't before, but
I'll put it on the refrigerator. That'll remind me.
Sweet.
There you go.
We'll put you up next to the picture of Dr. Now.
In fact, I will get special black lipstick, and I will kiss it with black lipstick and mail it to you in the mail.
And silver lip liner.
Nah, you got it.
All right.
Let's not ask too much. I mean, guys don't do makeup very well sometimes.
I'll get my wife to help me.
There you go. Well, as long as she can assist, it'll probably look good.
Yeah, so I am going to be that lone wolf. I am going to say the Raiders do pull it out. I don't think the Raiders are going to be able to get to the playoffs, though. The Raiders do not play well at home again this year. So I think they're going to overcome that demon and be able to pull it out and actually defeat the Broncos for once.
Well, I hope you're right, but I think they're done with the playoffs. When they lost to Cincinnati, I thought that was their playoff game right there. So I hope you're wrong. I hope I am wrong, and I hope you are right. And nothing would make me happier than to debase myself to do the thing that I anticipate to do this week.
I'll eat an entire crow pie. I don't care. That's fine with me. But, ugh. I'm so not very confident about this at all.
Oh, I'm not confident about it.
Yeah. If it's an ugly win, it's an ugly win, and that's fine with me. But here's one more wrinkle I'm going to throw in it. If we win this game, it's probably going to be substantial. Okay. I would say that if we come out there and we play like we're supposed to and like we are capable of, it will be a substantial win.
If we could roll out the game that we rolled out last year when Denver came to Vegas, the only other time they played in Vegas, I'd be happy with that because I believe that score was 37-12.
Yeah, it was a very, very decent, handy win.
Okay, T3, how about bringing us your top 3 for the week?
T3's top 3.
All right, here is this week's top 3. Number 1, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The lack of drafting and quality depth among the linebacking core has come back to bite the Raiders. Nick Kwiatkowski has been non-existent this year. Nick Morrow has been injured, and Corey Littleton has been, collecting his weekly paychecks. Divine Diablo shows some promise, but he's not a true linebacker. This is a spot where we need to use both the draft and free agency to get better. Now, Perryman's been great, but you saw what happened when he was out. And KJ Wright, he's okay, but for how much longer? Number 2, the defensive and offensive lines both need addressing. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that Denzel Good returns strong next year, but I just want to caution everyone about the same thing I talked about this past summer. Don't throw all your eggs in one basket for an old guy who's coming off a devastating injury who you expect to be a huge cog in the offense. I blame the entire organization for wasting a roster spot on Richie Incognito. Imagine the possibilities of just hanging on to Jimmy Morrissey for a little while longer. And number 3, Raider Nation, you know I've been a Derek Carr supporter since the beginning. Now, I'm not giving him a free pass, but for all the haters out there, let me just say this. I am predicting right now, today, that if the Raiders don't make the playoffs, that Derek Carr will either retire, because they'll be blowing this thing up, or he will end up with another team. And I have a list of 6 places where I could see him going. So everybody, appreciate what you have and be careful what you wish for. And that is this week's top 3.
Okay, so since we're taking a break from Ladies of Darkness, and I should probably make that announcement, we're going to probably take a break from Ladies of Darkness while Jenny is growing a person. Do you mind if I do a lady killer?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
So my lady killer this week would, even though there's not a lot of options, it's going to be Zay Jones. Zay actually had a really good game, and I think that given all the options that we have, he performed better than most of the rest of the team. He had 9 targets, 6 receptions, which is pretty darn good, 67 yards. But anyways, so I think he went out, he did his job, and for, a third-string wide receiver, he definitely put up numbers that nobody was expecting. So that would be my lady killer for the week.
For a guy that a lot of people said wasn't even going to make the team.
Yeah, exactly. He was supposed to be gone.
And he's got a great last name, too.
I'll give you that, sure. I think he's got a pretty cool first name.
Jones.
By the way, I think it's hilarious that your name is Tom Jones, because every time I see your name in print, I think, what's new, Pussycat? So,
well, that used to be my ringtone. So,
perfect.
Did you say perfect?
Perfect. All right. So that's my lady killer for the week.
Well, I'm going to go back to T3's top 3. And all I can say is this linebacker position is an Achilles heel for the Raiders. And it has been for a very long time. The Raiders stick their head in the sand and try to solve the problem of not having someone to play linebacker 6 weeks into the season. They don't draft for it. They did try to sign some free agents to help in that area, but they haven't developed a linebacker in a long time. And you're right, it has come back to bite them. The defensive and offensive lines, they do both need addressing. I think Denzel Good will be able to come back and have a good year next year. But what you said about wasting a roster spot on Richie Incognito and losing Jimmy Morrissey. I would have taken Jimmy Morrissey on our roster right now over even trying to wait for Richie. I love Richie. He's a good Raider. He has a good mentality. But it would have been really nice to be able to keep Morrissey around because he has a very bright future in the NFL.
I agree completely. I have a really special place in my heart for Richie just because of his story and because of the improvements that he's made. But we can't look at intent. We have to look at what's ready for us right now.
Yeah.
And I think when we had these discussions this past summer, I was saying the same thing. I was trying to give Richie every bit of the benefit of the doubt as far as kudos went, but I didn't see him coming back. I really didn't. And I thought to try to hold a roster spot open for him and to let a guy with the potential of Jimmy Morrissey go was a huge mistake.
I agree completely. And that linebacker situation, well, I have no idea why we can't address that. I don't have a clue why we can't find somebody that that wants to play linebacker and will do it well. I think Solomon Thomas has been doing his damnedest to try to, make some plays on the line. But if we're looking at just like you said, KJ Wright is KJ Wright. He's doing good, but for 11-year vet, we can't expect that he's going to be the 100% game breaker. And Corey Littleton is not going to be here much longer. I don't see him back on the team next year. I don't know. And like you said, Divine Diablo, he's a hybrid position. We don't do well with those. Not right now. We have no clue how to use them. He does. I think he's a really big safety if we're looking at it objectively. But linebacker, I don't think he has he's built like Arden Key. That's who he kind of reminds me of. And I hate to compare him to somebody like that because I think he's better. However, we have to use him right.
Well, we really do well with those hybrid positions. I mean, look how well Tanner Reeves did.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. The Raiders love to draft that hybrid position. They do.
I know. It's fantastic. We used to do really well with them, but it doesn't seem to be the case anymore for the last 20 years.
All right, give us a call at 904-701-8667. Leave a voicemail or text message at that number, or send in a message via social media, and we'll share your thoughts. And what's going on with Raider Roots this week, T3?
All right, this week we're going to jump into the year 1978, John Madden's last year as the Raiders head coach. And, with the Madden documentary coming out very soon, I think this episode's coming out at a very good time.
I can't wait for that documentary, by the way. I'm so excited. I love John Madden in every single phase of his career. I love him. He's great.
All right, T3, and why don't we find out what we do or don't know?
Now it's time for another edition of Did You Know? In this segment, I will ask Heidi and Angria this week and the rest of our listening audience a Raiders-related question with 3 possible answers to choose from. It's multiple choice, so just give it your best guess. So here goes. Here is this week's question. In last year's game against Denver in Las Vegas, which the Raiders won big, by the way, Drew Lock threw 4 interceptions. We're hoping he does that again this week. Now, 2 of them were to this guy. Was it A, Trayvon Mullen, B, Nick Kwiatkowski, or C, Jeff Heath? Heidi, what's your answer?
I am pretty sure that was C, Jeff Heath.
All right. Angria, what's your guess?
I'm 100% positive it was Jeff Heath.
See, I threw you all a softball. Jeff Heath indeed was the answer.
The reason that I knew that, let me just put a little 2 cents in here, is because I was really pissed that we let him go because he did play really well last year. And that was one of the games he played like a beast.
You were not the only one that was disappointed to see him go. But Jeff Heath is the answer for this week's question, and that is this week's version of Did You Know? And you both did.
Woohoo!
Yay! We're awesome. And now, Raider Nation, it's time for Heidi's Heroes.
By the way, on a wing and a prayer, who could it be?
All right. My heroes this week is a three-headed monster, and it's pretty easy to guess who they are. My heroes are Max Crosby, AJ Cole, and Denzel Perryman. And the reason why is because all three have been elected to the Pro Bowl. Rachel Gosson from Raiders.com wrote, "With the Pro Bowl in Las Vegas this year, 3 Raiders will be playing at their home stadium, representing the game's best at their positions. Defensive end Max Crosby, linebacker Denzel Perryman, and punter AJ Cole have been named the 2022 Pro Bowlers that NFL announced on Monday ahead of the Raiders-Browns game. It's the first Pro Bowl for all 3 of the players amid some of their best statistical seasons yet. Crosby, in his 3rd season as a Raider and first as a team captain, has accumulated 5 sacks, 39 tackles, 4 passes defensed, and a career-high 25 quarterback hits, landing him among the top 10 in the league in quarterback hits. With Yannick Ngakoue, Crosby has become half of one of the best pass-rushing duos in the league. Cole is leading the way among punters, averaging a league-high and career-high 51.1 yards per punt. The third-year player also has kicked the 3rd longest punt in the league this year at 71 yards. And now in his 7th season in the league, Perriman has been playing at a level he hasn't reached before. The linebacker is not only the Raiders' leading tackler with 85 solo tackles, but leads the league in solo tackles and ranks in the top 5 in the league with 133 total through 12 games played. And that, Raider Nation, explains why those 3 guys are my heroes for the week.
Those are good ones. I like it.
And I would like to make one mention. Let me have an honorable mention here. I think Daniel Carlson got screwed. He should be the Pro Bowl kicker. There's no way, with the consistency he's displayed and everything he's been called upon to do this year for this team, he should have been in there. I'm not discounting the other 3 because they all 3 deserve to be there. But Daniel Carlson should have been a 4th addition there.
I agree with you completely on that, but I also want to give a huge shout out to AJ Cole. Punters are people too, so stop discounting them. Do you know how important a punter can be? 71 yards is some Ray Guy-ish. I'm not going to say I don't know. Do you guys say the bad words? Because I say them way too often. If you listen to Ladies of Darkness, I say that's some Ray Guy shit right there. Because he has regularly put it inside the 20 and oftentimes inside the 10. Now, I don't have the numbers in front of me because I never do, but if you watch this man punt, he punts for his life and puts us in a very, very good position to be able to have some very good defensive play and some really good field position for the stops because the further back we push him, the better off we are.
Now, who is the only punter in the Hall of Fame, and who is the only punter who has ever been drafted in the first round of a draft because Al Davis saw the punter as a defensive weapon?
With a broken foot, by the way, he was drafted in the first round. That would be Ray Guy. He is, I love to say, actually, screw it. Ray Guy is one of my favorite Raiders of all time because he changed the game of punting. Mm-hmm. The reason that the Superdome is as high as it is, they had to raise the entire ceiling for Ray Guy because he kept regularly hitting the display on the ceiling of the Superdome.
And he single-handedly kept the momentum going in Super Bowl 18. If he would not have grabbed that one over-the-head hike the way he did, that game could have ended completely differently.
And the coffin corner kick.
Angry, if you will permit me, and I will do this in deference to you and apologize to the rest of our audience, that is some Ray Guy shit.
That is. Damn right.
Note to self, mark episode as explicit.
Well, it's at the end. Are they going to notice?
Probably not.
Is anybody really going to notice? Probably not.
Except for when they hear me drop the S-bomb.
Well, they're going to see your name in the title, Angria, and they're just going to expect it.
They're probably going to know. Yeah. Captain Jack has to regularly write notes about when the minute mark when he has to go back and bleep out my moments. So.
Well, this year we've had quite a few of them.
I've been pretty good, though, because we haven't had Trent Brown on the team.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
true.
that's right. Well, that was a
That's
regular
true.
issue for Heidi. Whew, yeah. Anyways.
And that about does it for this week on the Only Nation podcast. We want to give special thank you to this week's guest host, Angria Trask. If you'd like to help support the show, you can send in a donation at paypal.me/onlynationpod. You can find me, Heidi Stabbert, on social media as @KeblerPromDress on Twitter and Instagram, or Heidi Stabbert on Facebook. You can also find me on YouTube on Captain Jack Rackham's channel every other Tuesday night. I join the DC wench Peggy Holmes and Angria Trask on the Captain and His Wenches show.
And it is a lot of fun. If you haven't watched it, tune in. It is Raiderette-centric. We are the three primary speakers. Jack is just there to moderate, and he controls the phones. So
And to write down where you
it's
were
a lot of
cussing.
fun. You want and write down where I was cussing. Yes, you have to be let in, and it's at our discretion. And if you want a lady's perspective on football, it is definitely different than a man's. So tune in and find out what we're thinking. If you want to contact me, you can contact at Angria Trask on Twitter. I don't do Instagram, but Ladies of Darkness does. You can always check in with Ladies of Darkness on Instagram and Ladies of Darkness on Facebook.
And Angry, it was a pleasure having you on, and we want to encourage you to come back on anytime.
Yes, we loved having you. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun. Absolutely.
Raider Nation, we want you with us every step of the way during the regular season and even beyond. So here's what we'd like you to do. Send us your name and address so we can send you some free Raiders swag and some podcast stickers. Call us and tell us what you want to know. Throw us an interesting nugget that we can use on one of our upcoming episodes and become a part of what we're doing here. Remember, this is the Only Nation, and we want you to be a part of it. So call us 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Call us now and join the Only Nation podcast family. There are two easy ways to find me on social media. You can send me a tweet at T3_sports703, as several of you do, or you can hit me up on Facebook at Tom, T-H-O-M, Jones. I want to also thank you for all your continued support of the Raider Roots podcast. As we mentioned, this week we'll be going back to the year 1978, John Madden's last year as head coach of the Raiders.
As always, we look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Go Raiders!
We are not just a nation, we are the only nation. Raiders.